Hey, welcome back to some of the final episodes of this Persian Dagger series. It's all starting to come together now. I'm going to be working on this walrus ivory handle and finishing up the mammoth ivory pins that go in the spine of the knife. Just a little bit of hand sanding, a little bit of doming, a little bit of fitting up, making sure everything is nice and tight to go together for the glue up. And we will actually get to gluing up that knife and getting it almost finished today. So let's go ahead and get started. I've put the blade aside for now so I can work on the handle, and I'm just taking these pins out, and I've put that petroleum jelly on there so they didn't get epoxied in, which they didn't. It worked, but they are pretty tight. They're moving though, so I just need to take these out. Now I'm ready to start some hand sanding. I've got the ivory up to a 600 grit finish straight off the grinder. These are good belts. They're 3M 15 micron finishing belts. It's called a micro finishing belt. They're great for mainly handle materials. They don't really work great on steel unless you've got a slack belt or a soft backing on there so it doesn't chatter. So I use those to bring it up as high as I can before I start hand sanding. And of course we need to finish it off by hand. I'm hand sanding with 1,000 grit, and that'll be my final grit. So I'm going straight from 600 off the grinder to 1,000 grit by hand, going lengthwise with my scratch lines. And then after this is done, we can go over and finish it on the buffer with a really light compound just to give it a good shine. Now that I've got the all the handle hand sanded, I haven't buffed yet, but it's all hand sanded. What I'm going to do is actually bevel the edges of the front here, which is what gives us the heirloom fit, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when I put it onto the bolster. You'll see it's basically just a transition area rather than having the handle flush. In fact, this small detail is the entire reason that we've made the knife the way that we have, as opposed to just gluing up the mammoth before it's shaped, before I etch the Damascus, before I do any of the grinding on the bolster. Normally you just glue that stuff together and just grind it all together and you'd be done, instead of taking everything apart and working on the pieces separately. And the whole reason that we're doing all of that is for this one little detail. Look at that. That is beautiful. It is now time to do the domed pins in the top. I've got this mammoth ivory nice and polished. I want to...
That's walrus.
God dang it. Walrus ivory. You know what? It's all ivory from animals that died a long, long time ago, so... I need to fit these... This is walrus ivory, Jacob.
No, that's mammoth ivory.
No one knows what type of ivory this is. It could be Neanderthal ivory. Could be caveman ivory.
No, Liam,
This could be like
it's mammoth ivory. It's woolly mammoth.
Femur of a young Neanderthal child that got mauled by a saber-toothed tiger and then frozen in the permafrost for 20,000 years.
I don't think that's what it is.
I think that's what this is. That's what I'm going to say it is. I need to get all of this gunk out of here from the etching. You know, the nail polish and buffing compounds in here. Get all of that out. Like a dentist. I need to dome the ends of these pins that go in the spine so it's nice and round and like studded. But it's so short that I can't really hold on to it on the grinder without the risk of it falling in my vacuum system and never finding it again. So I'm just going to super glue it onto the end of something. I just got a drill bit here. I'll super glue that onto the end of there so that I can actually work it on the grinder and buffer. And then it should just come right off the drill bit when I want it to. Burnt his leg off. Anyways, back to the project. Oh, nice. It's so tiny. The details. The little mushroom cap. I'm about to go ahead and glue up these little pins. I've actually already glued in the smallest pin there. Isn't it cute? And some of the other pins either are too high or too low, meaning I need to either grind off material from the other side or add material in the hole to give a good height to them. And the largest pin is what I'm going to do next, and it's a little bit low. So I'm going to put some crushed up scale in the hole, which is basically, well, it was steel. It's metallic. So I'm going to put some of that in the bottom of the hole before I do the glue up on that pin. We'll see how much it needs to be raised. Probably not a lot. That's a lot of super glue.
It might be too much super glue.
It's gonna be messy. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. I honestly think that super glue is stronger than 5-minute epoxy. Just a tip. 5-minute epoxy is just terrible stuff. But the vision of inlaying ivory into Damascus has come true. Wow. It feels cool. I'm going to go over this. I'm going to let this dry, the glue cure. And I'm going to go over this with a buffer to clean it up. And then we'll be ready to glue on the walrus ivory. I just put in the nickel silver pins all the way through the walrus ivory, and I'm just going to grind them flush. I was gonna do domed pins in the first plan. You know, the vision in my head was domed pins, but I didn't actually think about the way that this is. Since it curves down so much, the pins are at a weird angle, and there's so much more on this side than this side. And to do that, I have to hold it at an angle, and I'm worried about breaking the ivory at this point. If it was like on top here and here and here, I would have totally gone for it. That's what is deterring me, is this extreme sloped angle that the domed pin would have to lay on. So I'm just going to grind it flush. Now all of the components are finished, and they just need to be glued together and fit together. Jacob, you just texted me while we're filming. Sorry. Look at that. Would you just look at that? Wait, but that won't work. It doesn't work unless the vise is close together. It's a tricky shape to glue up because it's hard to clamp the back end there since it's round. We're finding that if we tried to clamp the round polished handle with a hard surface, it would just slip off, or it would go at a weird angle. So I was holding this thing up against my stomach, holding the blade and the handle, just pushing it up against my stomach. I was like, that's a good fit. So I figured that we need something that gives and holds the handle in, and then something that's stationary. So we just put it up against the wall here with this simulates my stomach. And we got a good fit. So now that that's all dry fit and we know that it's going to work, we're going to go ahead and put the epoxy in and do it for real. I'm using this G-Flex epoxy. It's a 2-part epoxy by West Systems. And this is pretty much the standard go-to epoxy for high-end custom knife makers. It's really good glue. If you're going to be putting knife handles on, I would use this stuff, and I've put a link in the description below. My Amazon affiliate link is in the description below. If you want to get this stuff in smaller bottles, this is pretty expensive, so you don't, if you're just starting off knife making, or if you're not making a lot of knives, you don't want to invest in 2 large bottles. So there's a link in the description below for some small bottles of that.
Watch those nails.
Ooh, look at all that excess glue. I'm gonna have to clean all that off my vise or I'll never get it off. Got that knife glued up now with the super complicated clamping system here. It's a system. It's a whole system. It works together. It's multifaceted. So I hope that you enjoyed that video and learned something from it. It was cool to see the knife actually all starting to come together. And tomorrow morning I will be taking it out of the clamping system and taking all the tape off. We'll be able to see what it looks like as an actual finished product and save that for the final video showing off the finished knife. So again, thank you. Appreciate you watching. If you've enjoyed what we've seen so far, you may consider subscribing if you're not subscribed already, and share with your friends. Thanks. I'll see you next time.